Okay, to start our two-dimensional sound control with pushes, encoders, and user mode, we're going to check a few settings. First, we go to the Live menu, check the Preferences. You can also do that by Command Comma. We're going to go to Track and Remote for Ableton Push 2 user port. Make sure that those are turned on. Next, we're going to go to the MIDI track and make sure that its input is set to the Push 2 input user mode. And we're going to make sure that we arm the MIDI track as well. And you can test this by touching each of the encoders, and you'll see that the MIDI track will fire up a input note. Now we're going to drag a drum rack, a blank default drum rack, onto our track and navigate down to the lowest octave. That's where the push to user mode encoders are mapped by default. I'm going to drag an operator onto the first pad, and I'm going to navigate to the Oscillator A tab, and I'm going to turn on the LFO, make sure its rates turns down, its amount is turned down, and I'm going to turn my filter on, and make sure that I keep on that Oscillator A tab there in the display. Next, I can test and make sure that I've got a note. We got it. So I'm going to option drag each one of my operators to the first 8 drum rack pads. This is going to copy that initial operator over to each one of them. Hold down option, drag it over. There we go. Got a lot of the same note. Now I'm going to change each oscillator wave for each one of my operators to give each one of the pitches that I'm going to do a unique timbre. You don't have to do this, but I like to do this just to create a little bit of variation in between each one of the sounds as I play them on the encoders. So of course, an operator in the oscillator window in the middle, the display, you could draw in your own custom waveforms or choose a waveform from the drop-down menu. I'll continue to do this and test each sound as I go to make sure I've got the right amount of variation that I'm looking for. Now I want to change the notes that the drum pads are playing by going to the I/O button on my drum rack on the bottom left, and then in the play column in the middle of my drum rack here, I can choose the note that each one of my pads play. This is the note that it's going to send to operator, and it's going to determine the pitch that operator plays for me. So I'm doing roughly this D major kind of scale, but you can make it anything that you like. You can make it as consonant or dissonant as you want. It's a good chance to pick out notes and practice your scales as well. Test that for musicality. I like what we're hearing here. So next I want to focus on the macros. Each one of my macros is also going to be connected to an encoder. So I'm going to rename macro 1, the really original name of 1, and I want to make sure to color it as well. Now I navigate to the first operator in my chain, and I want to assign the LFO rate and the LFO amount, and then the filter cutoff frequency, as well as the oscillator A feedback, all to macro 1 by control clicking or right clicking over each of the parameters in operator. And now they're all assigned to macro 1. So when I turn this macro, it's going to affect all those parameters, but I want to adjust them just a little bit. So for the oscillator A feedback control, control click over, invert the range so that it starts at 100% and goes down to 0. Set the LFO rate from 110 to 75. I want to set my LFO amount from 0% to 40%. I'm going to set the filter frequency from 400 Hz to 2000 Hz. Now click off my map button, and to assign the push encoder, I want to hit Command M or the MIDI map button, touch the macro in the drum rack, and turn the encoder slowly to the left. That's going to assign the MIDI CC control of the encoder to my macro. I hear the note play and those controls change as I turn the macro. So when I touch the encoder, the note plays. And as I turn the encoder, the parameters change. We'll adjust the resonance up here just a little bit to make it a bit more toothy on the filter there. Alright, so we've got one macro now. Let's start with this second macro. We're going to do it a little differently. So I'm going to rename it first to, of course, color it. Don't forget that. Then I'm going to MIDI map it first, hitting Command M. Make sure I touch that macro first so the brackets around it, and then turn my encoder slowly to the left. Now it's mapped. Hit Control M again. So I can see that it's working, it's playing its note. I'm going to drag an audio effect, a ping pong delay, right after this second operator here. And make sure that I stick it inside the drum rack after the operator so it affects only that second encoder's operator. And now I'm going to map a few things to the macro for that encoder. I'm going to set the algorithm, the vertical Tetris piece, so we get a little bit of frequency modulation, and set the second oscillator's coarse tuning to 7, and assign the level control of my second oscillator, oscillator B, assign the pitch envelope amount, the dry wet of my ping pong delay, and change it to a time base, and then assign the time to my second macro as well. I'm going to open my macro mapping browser, set the ping pong delay time from 400 milliseconds to 800 milliseconds. And set the ping pong delay dry wet from 40% to 70%. And remember, you can set these however you like. These are just suggestive, starting places for them. Turn off my macro mapping button. Test out my sound. See that quite a few things can happen all at once if you map your macros with intention. But experiment with effects, with operator parameters, with pan, level parameters. The macros can do a lot of work all at once, and you can put a lot of dimensionality into your sound. The note is one dimension, and the changes in the second dimension. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.
The Pyramind Mentorship Network connects you to experienced professionals for truly customized private training in music production, sound design, music business, and more. Use our scheduling tool to select the type of training you want. Pick your mentor. Find a day and time that works best for you, then book your session. Your appointment will be confirmed instantly. Study only what you want. Progress at your own pace. Pay as you go. And do it all from the comfort of your home or studio. Our global network of industry experts are here to help you. Visit pyramind.com/mentorship to get started.